Welcome once again to 720 and 720. This is John Schulman. We got a great guest, a very smart human who is really going to help young coaches and parents and players. The former head wrestling coach at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, Heath Eslinger. Heath, welcome to 720 and 720.
Coach, thanks so much for having me on.
Well, you are you're a little bit like me. We always had a vision to do. Maybe
I don't know if I like that. No, I'm just
to
kidding.
do something else in life. Heath, you were two-time Southern Conference Coach of the Year. You had the program rocking and rolling, and all of a sudden you just step up and leave. Tell us, number one, why, and tell us, number two, what you're doing now.
Well, the why was, I just really felt like there was something bigger out there I could offer to the sports world. I kind of saw how broken it was and was on the
sports world broken. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Shattered. Let's call it.
There you go.
I was on the receiving end of all these kids that were living out the dream of becoming a Division I athlete. I saw how many of them were so unprepared for real life, and how many parents just weren't enjoying the sporting journey. I mean, it's just we've allowed it to become so stressful, and it's consumed us. So, I said, hey, I believe there's some things. For about 5 years, I did a lot of research and a lot of thinking and a lot of writing, and began to put some things on paper. I also realized that I got 2 head coaching jobs, one at the high school level and one at the Division I level, and both times I was simply handed the keys to the job and told, good luck, figure it out, man. If you screw it up, we'll fire you. So, really realized there's so many great people out there in the coaching world, but we haven't done a good job of training them and developing them. And at every level, there's more athletes than there probably is anything else in the world today. I mean, we worship this thing called sports. So, what can we do to help equip these people that are leading in the area of sport to be successful? And so right now I'm working full-time with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and then I've started a company called the Better Way Athletics, where we do parent education. How do we keep sport in its proper perspective as a parent so we don't get crazy? And then coaching development. How do we help train coaches through a variety of different avenues? And then how do we do a lot of coaching consulting, where we come alongside a coach and his staff and kind of help walk them through some things to keep focused on what matters most. So having a lot of fun right now, to be honest.
Well, okay, now listen, you're a smart guy. I was down the hall from you for many, many years, and you were always a very calming influence on this crazy brain that's coming from this end of the mic. Here's what I want to do. We got about 15 minutes. We could talk about the world. I don't want to talk about the world. This podcast is to help young coaches today. All right. So you're not going to focus on parents. We'll do that another day. We're not going to focus on players. We're going to focus on coaches only.
Okay.
And in my belief, that 95% of us start the journey for the right reasons for the kids, and then we get screwed up along the way. And we lose complete perspective on what in the crap we got in the business for. Help us, because I know you came over here to McCallie a couple times to talk to us. Help young coaches and help old coaches figure this thing out real quick, and you got about 15 minutes.
Well, I think the first thing we got to start with is one, you got to ask yourself, what's the end goal? One of the things that happens is we get so consumed with what matters now, we lose sight of what matters most. And the coaching world will do that to you, because you are being graded on how you perform today. I mean, your emails and your text messages, the tone of those are in complete, alignment with whether or not you won or lost that game. And it changes, it changes day to day and weekly. Heck, it can change from half to half in a basketball game. They hate you in the first half and love you in the second half. So it's real easy to get sucked into just worrying about the very present thing that's going on. So one of the things that as coaches we have to do is we have to constantly be zooming in and zooming out. We have to have microscopic vision to see what's most pressing in the moment, but we also have to have telescopic vision to remind ourselves of, hey, here's where we're going with this in the long run. And really I really believe that starts with, having a mission and a set of core values that become the filter in which everything we do is made. So every decision, every recruit, every hire, every email we send is filtered through the lens of those core values that we say, this is the most important thing to me. And if we can do that, if we can have the maturity and the discipline to do that, then what it does is it allows us to have some long-term success. And that success can be measured in a variety of ways. It's not just wins and losses.
Well, okay, let me interrupt. How do we do that right during the middle of the season? We've lost 3 games in a row. Fans are coming down on me. Well, how can I do that and stay very true to the end goal?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be point blank honest with you. If it's in the middle of the season and you haven't thought about these things, it's going to be tough. It's going to be super tough. I think what you got to do is you got to take some real serious notes on yourself throughout that season. And you got to take a hard look in the mirror and realize where you're missing it. And then when the season ends, you got to hope that, you make it another year and that you can put some of these things in place. Now, that's not to say you can't make some minor adjustments during the year, but when our decision-making begins, even when our decision-making, the illustration used was, we've lost 3 games in a row. Now, how do we change it? Well, if we're changing things after 3 losses, well, it really is probably a result of we don't really know what our system is.
Yep.
So what we have to do is we have to be really certain on what our system is and what we value. And that doesn't mean you don't alter. You may run a different offense in the second half, or you may run a different defense in the second half. But here's what we know: we play hard.
Yeah, but see,
our core value
that's who Heath Eslinger is. Heath is not an X and O guy. What you're teaching these coaches that you're dealing with right now is it's not about X's and O's. It's about the relationships that we got with those kids and trying to help those kids. And that's the most important thing. And I think that's got to be the end goal, correct?
It does. I mean, it boils down to that, and they have to see. I mean, the 3 biggest downfalls of coaches is inconsistency, moodiness, and sarcasm. And if we don't know really what we value, we'll be very inconsistent. We'll be inconsistent in our discipline. We'll be inconsistent in our practice plans. We'll be inconsistent in how we speak. We'll be super moody because we never know what the heck's going on. We'll be moody because our mood will be dictated by our performance only. And then we'll begin to get sarcastic. So what we have to do is we have to have a filter for these core values are not for our athletes. It will become our athletes, but those core values are for ourselves. We're first establishing who we are, what we stand for, the places we will not waver, and then we begin to make sound decisions, whether it's in good times or bad times, based on those things. And what it does is it frees us up a little bit to stay true to what we really got in this for. And it's hard. You have to have, I think there's so many coaches out there too that don't have people around them. And I'm not even saying assistant coaches because those come and go. But I mean, you have to have people in your life that will speak truth and say, hey, you're missing it here. Like, you got to get back to who you are. And I've seen the good and bad of that. So, I think that's the first step. I think these coaches, they get these jobs, whether it be at the high school level or the middle school level or the collegiate level, and they come in and they got recruiting plans, but they don't have a filter for recruiting. They have practice, aspirations, but they don't have a filter for that, and then you just get lost in the shuffle. I mean, you just lose yourself. You not only lose yourself, you lose your mind. And unfortunately, these coaches are losing their families and their own children. And it's absolutely sad.
And it's completely out of control. And
it's an epidemic, right?
Yeah, I've watched it and I see it. And I fell into the trap of just trying to win games and that I needed to win games to save my contract. And I didn't start in the business like that. I could not stay consistent. Those guys who just stay consistent, in their message. One thing you just said is just like groundbreaking to me. The core values that we set as coaches, most of the time we set, this is our culture, this is our core value, and this is how we want our players to act. Well, you didn't say that. You just said our core values are how we want our coaches to act.
It starts with us.
Very few, I will promise you, Heath, very few coaches ever look at that. They set their core values for their program, not for themselves.
Well, first of all, most coaches just write their core values on a piece of paper, and it doesn't mean jack or squat.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest. We don't even know how to implement it. I think the other thing, we talk a lot about this when we meet with coaches and teams and even whole organizations, is we talk a lot about the difference in desired outcome and the definition of success. Let me illustrate it. So desired outcomes are the wins and losses. We all want that. My 7-year-old son wants to win every game, but he doesn't know what it takes because he's 7. So if the only thing we measure is desired outcome, which are wins and losses, if that's the only thing we measure, then it's really what we're saying is it's the only thing we value. So what I believe you have to do as a coach, if you want to have long-term sustained success, you have to define, what do we measure that is success? So attendance at practice, body language, attitude at games, thank yous on the road, locker room cleanliness, teammate support, being a team player. You were a basketball coach. I say all the time, basketball is no longer a team sport. It's an individual sport where you take the collective score of each individual and you hope it is more than the other team's collective score of each individual. And it's super sad, but that's what we're teaching these kids in 7 and 8-year-old basketball. It's an individual sport. So, we really, what I love to do is go in with a coach and say, Coach, how do you define success? How many players stay in our program? How many players give back? How many players, do something that demonstrates they're for other guys on the team? So if we define success the right way and we reward it, because what gets rewarded gets repeated, we reward those little things because we've established what they are, I believe it will get us as close as we can to our desired outcome that we all want. But it doesn't work in reverse order.
No, I mean, but what you're saying is, if you're having successes in other areas and maybe not on the scoreboard, you got to be strong enough to stay with that, because that's the process.
That is it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's hard in today's world. With when I was going through it, message boards, now it's Twitter, and it's social media. You can get blasted after the first 2 plays you called. And so, but you got to stay strong. I understand that.
But here's what happens is now we're not making decisions and responding based on emotion and feeling. This is who we are. And that's what the great coaches do. I mean, the coaches that have been in it, and I really believe some of those great coaches are the ones that are in middle school and high school and Division II and Division III, and they're doing it for the right reasons. Those coaches, they stay true to those things. And I've seen the good and bad of it, and I've done some of the good and bad of it. So that's kind of where I think we have to start as we train and develop these coaches. We got to hold them accountable and help them see, hey, what do you really value? How do you define success? Let's figure out a way to measure that, reward that, and then trust me, the byproduct will probably be a lot more games won.
No, it is, and it's the process, and we rush the process, and we don't even want to do the process. We just want to win games, because if we win games, we're cool, we're popular, we get bigger contracts, we get better jobs, and we don't care who we step on along the way. We just want to, and life's short, and when we're on our deathbed, I don't think we're going to wish that we had won 2 more championships.
No, especially if we're not doing it the right way.
There's some really good people out there doing it the right way. But what you're doing, and I've heard you, and you're like contagious. You could make such a difference in this world of young coaches, because the world's going to – I don't think kids have changed. Everybody says kids have changed.
I don't either.
The adults have changed. We've changed. I didn't get away with nothing. I
Yeah.
got in trouble. I went 2 for 10 from the foul line, and I got in trouble. My dad didn't blame it on the rim. My dad blamed it on me.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so we need these coaches to come out right now and be strong in their beliefs. And I really think you can help. There's no doubt, because you have great passion for that.
And here's what's sad is because we idolize sports so early now, is that here's the pathway of it. So this 8 and 9 year old or 10-year-old kid that's a phenom that has all these issues, attitude issues or whatever. Well, his 9 and 10-year-old coach don't want to deal with him. He just hopes he don't get in trouble while he's under his watch.
Mm-hmm.
He uses him, and then we pass him to the 11 and 12-year-old coach. Well, that coach wants to win. So we use the kid. We don't really help him with the issues he has. And as he gets older, the consequence gets bigger. And so that's why I call it sport prostitution. What we do is we pimp these kids out with no care of what's going on in their life. And when they finally get to college, it's too late, man. We failed that kid. Instead of going, you know what? Nobody gives a crap about 9 and 10-year-old basketball. Let's hold this knucklehead accountable, and maybe he'll make it in this world.
I've talked about you. You remember the kid I had? I had a kid. I'm not going to say his name, but I had a kid that was a knucklehead, and at the end of the season, I'd had enough, and I got rid of him. And he actually left, went to a junior college, and went to a high major school after that, and had a great career. And came out in the paper and said the best thing that ever happened to me was getting thrown off the team at Chattanooga. Because I finally realized I finally grew up, and someone finally held me accountable. Because it's gonna, if it doesn't happen, let's say we keep kissing his tail end in college. Well, then he goes plays professional. Then it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen sometime.
It is.
And he's gonna regret that. All of a sudden now, when it's time for money making time, he's acting like a jerk, and he probably wishes way back in the day somebody had held him accountable.
That's right. And the earlier we start, I mean, listen, life works this way. Consequences are age appropriate. So an 8-year-old mess up has an 8-year-old consequence. But we have bought the lie that 8-year-old basketball or baseball or wrestling or whatever is the end all, because we've gotten so consumed with what matters now. We've lost sight of what matters most. So we dismiss it and we delay it, and all it does is it grows. And it's super, super unfortunate.
Well, give us, because I know you don't have a lot of time today. We got about 2.5 minutes. Give us, because we're going to use you a lot, Heath. I hate to tell you this. We're going to call you back and call you back and call you back. All right.
Yeah.
But give us 2 or 3 things young coaches can take from this to really help them. You know, right now it's January going on February. They're going towards the end of their season, whether it be a high school or college season. What can they do right now, and what can they do starting in the spring?
Focus on what matters most. I always talk about the 80-20 rule. Spend 80% of your time on the 20% that matters the most. There's so much information out there available, even when it comes to X's and O's. Listen, the game of basketball is not brain surgery. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not brain surgery. I mean, if John Schulman can coach it, I probably could have. No, I'm just kidding. Focus on what matters most. Don't be so wishy-washy. Get in there and do what you know is best. Get your kids to buy into that. I'm a big believer in getting people to let their yes be yes, and that goes for the coaches too. So get back to what matters most. All right?
See, I think you can do that. I don't want to interrupt you, but I think you can do that now. I think you can do that.
No.
I think I just talked to a coach the other day who's having a tough season, all right? And I said, who cares? Get back to the basics. Get back to the basics, what's important. You're right. Clean up that daggone locker room. You show me a team that's got a messy locker room, I'll show you a losing team. And a losing
I believe it.
And you show me a team that their locker room looks great. I'll show you a team that takes pride in the little things, and that they're winning games. And sometimes we forget that. So go back and clean yourself up and clean your program up.
Yes.
It's not too late.
Yeah. It's not too late. And sometimes the coach has to swallow some pride and say, hey, man, guys, I have wavered here a little bit, and that's on me. But we're going to, we always tell our athletes, hey, make the next right decision. Well, coaches got to do that too. We got to make the next right decision. Nobody's asking us to be perfect, but we at least need to be predictable. So that's what I would say. The other thing I would say is so many of these guys don't surround themselves with great people. I say to young people all the time, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. You're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Well, that's true of adults too, Coach. I mean, if I surround myself with 5 negative, you know, people that, they don't really want to help me get better, we just, always talking about the wrong things, well, I'll become more of that. So,
Well,
get yourself surrounded with the right people.
what you said earlier, I was a head coach Division I for 9 years, and as I was an assistant for a long time, and you have to have a really good relationship to be able to tell the head coach, hey man, we're doing wrong things here. We're doing bad things. We need to do this and we need to do that. Most of the time, assistant coaches are yes men because they want to keep the job. All right, and so if you can find 3 or 4 guys from outside of your coaching world that actually know what they're doing, tell me the truth. What do you see with our team? Well, I see this kid's got an attitude. Those 4 kids aren't defending anything, and they're still playing. And you got some issues. If you can surround yourself with guys that you don't feel threatened with, that you really want the truth. We talk about it all the time. A guy said that the truth doesn't hurt, the truth helps. And then I talked to a couple of NBA guys. NBA guys, they said NBA players, all they want is the truth. They don't want you to sugarcoat anything. Tell me what I need to work on so I can make more money, period.
Yeah.
And so same thing with coaching, but we get our feelings hurt, and we don't want to hear that. But I think we need to hear the God's honest truth. While we're winning, while we're losing, it doesn't matter.
That's it. And when we consistently have those people around us, that's what we learn. Hey, these people are telling us, I trust them in the good times, so I learn to trust them in the bad, in the more the tougher times. So you build a relationship with those people.
But as soon as the season's over, I'm a young coach. As soon as the season's over, I look back at last year. I need to start developing those core values immediately, correct?
Yes. I have to sit down. The most important thing I got to do is I got to figure out what are the ingredients that are gonna make me successful over the long haul. And you can't say, oh, it's recruiting. Listen, everybody knows great players make you better. But guess what? You got to make the 7 and 8, and you got to make the 5 a 6, and you got to keep the 9 a 9 or the 10 a 10. And you do that through understanding and knowing what you're about. So I think that is truly the most important thing. And if you can't do it, I mean, listen, we're booking people left and right because, you don't have a ton of time. So what you do is you hire somebody to come in and help you do it. I promise you won't regret that investment.
Well, I know you got a role. Heath Eslinger, Better Way Athletics. I'm assuming they can look it up. What's your webpage?
BetterWayAthletics.com.
BetterWayAthletics.com. Let me just tell you something. We're also going to use you later on with players, and we're going to use you later on with parents. And so you are an unbelievable guy with an unbelievable knowledge and a great dad, and just so many good things come out of Heath Eslinger. And thanks for your time today. And go enjoy that birthday party.
You got it, man. Thanks, Coach.
Right, man,
have a great day.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye.